A gunshot cracked through the air. The little girl flew from the saddle and hit the ground hard. She did not move. Sam threw himself over her body, shielding her with his own. When he looked up, a man stood at the edge of the trees with a rifle aimed at his chest. "Found her, did I not?" The man smiled. "Now tell me where the money is, or I start hurting people." Sam had sworn to protect this child. He had promised her mother he would keep them safe. And Samuel Thornton was not a man who broke his promises. But keeping this one might cost him his life. The little girl's hand was cold as death when Samuel Thornton touched it. 5 years old, maybe less. Her tiny fingers wrapped around her baby sister like she could protect her from the killing freeze that was stealing them both away. Their mother lay beneath them, her body curved into a shield against the cold that was taking them anyway. 3 lives fading in his hayloft on New Year's Eve, 1887. Samuel Thornton had not prayed in 7 years, not since he had buried his wife and daughter in the frozen ground beneath the cottonwood tree. Not since he had watched the light leave Catherine's eyes and felt his infant Grace go still in his arms. He had made a bargain with silence that winter, and silence had kept its end faithfully ever since. But kneeling in that hay with the wind howling outside and death settling over these strangers like a second blanket, he whispered the only word that mattered. "Please." The word hung in the frozen air, visible for just a moment before it disappeared. Sam did not know if anyone was listening. He did not know if it mattered. But his hands were already moving, already reaching for the woman's face, already checking for the faint pulse that meant the difference between rescue and burial. She was breathing. Barely. Her lips had turned the color of a bruised plum, and her skin felt like winter itself when he touched her cheek. But her chest rose and fell in shallow rhythm, fighting for each breath. The older girl's eyes flew open. She screamed. The sound cut through the silence of the barn like a blade, sharp and desperate and full of terror. The child scrambled backward, dragging her unconscious sister with her, putting distance between herself and this stranger who had appeared from nowhere in the darkness. "Do not touch us." The girl's voice cracked with fear, but held an edge of fierce determination. "Do not you dare touch my mama." Sam held up his hands, showing them empty in the lantern light. "Easy now. Easy. I am not going to hurt you. I am trying to help. That is what they all say." The words came out in a rush, bitter and knowing. "That is what the man said before he left us, before he took our wagon and everything we had and left us here to die." Sam felt something tighten in his chest. Someone had abandoned them, left a woman and 2 children in the middle of nowhere in the dead of winter with nothing but the clothes on their backs and whatever mercy the cold decided to show. "I am not that man," Sam said, keeping his voice low and steady, the way he used to talk to spooked horses and frightened witnesses during his years as a ranger. "My name is Samuel Thornton. This is my land and my barn. I found you here and I am going to get you warm, but I need you to trust me, just for tonight. Can you do that?" The girl stared at him. Even in the dim lantern light, her eyes were sharp and watchful, the eyes of a child who had learned too young that the world was cruel and adults could not be trusted. She was measuring him, weighing him, looking for the lie that experience had taught her to expect. Sam waited. He did not move, did not push, did not try to convince her with more words. Words meant nothing to a child like this. Only actions would prove him true or false. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the wind outside and the shallow breathing of the unconscious woman. Finally, the girl spoke. "Emma. My name is Emma. This is Lucy." She pointed to the smaller child in her arms, a toddler with golden curls matted with hay and a face too pale, too still. "She will not wake up." Sam looked at the little one. Lucy's chest barely moved. Her breathing was fast and shallow, and when he leaned closer, he could hear a wet rattle in her chest that spoke of something worse than cold. "She is breathing," he said carefully. "But she is real cold. We have to get her inside. All of you. Mama will not wake up neither." Emma's voice wavered the first crack in her armor. "She will, but not if we stay here." Sam shrugged out of his heavy coat and wrapped it around the unconscious woman. "I am going to carry your mama. Can you hold Lucy real tight and follow me?" Emma hesitated. Her arms tightened around her sister, and Sam could see the war playing out on her young face. Trust versus fear. Hope versus experience. Everything she had learned told her to run to hide to protect her family from this stranger who might be just another man with empty promises and cruel hands. But there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and her mother and sister were dying. Do not drop her. Emma's chin lifted with stubborn pride. Do not you dare drop my mama. I will not. Sam gathered the woman in his arms and lifted her. She weighed nothing light as a bundle of sticks wrapped in worn cotton. Her body had burned through every reserve it had trying to keep her children warm, and there was nothing left but bones and determination and a mother's desperate love. He cradled her against his chest and started down the ladder. Emma followed. She moved careful and slow, one arm wrapped around Lucy, the other gripping the ladder rungs with white-knuckled determination. The toddler's head lolled against her shoulder, but Emma held on like her life depended on it. Because it did. The walk to the cabin was the longest of Sam's life. The wind hit him like a wall of knives, cutting through his shirt and freezing the sweat on his back. His arms burned with the woman's weight, slight as she was, and every step through the knee-deep snow felt like wading through molasses. But he did not slow down. Could not slow down. Behind him he could hear Emma's labored breathing, her small boots crunching through the frozen crust. She was keeping up. Somehow this 5-year-old child who should have been playing with dolls and learning her letters was keeping pace with a grown man through a Wyoming blizzard. Brave Sam thought. The bravest thing he had seen in 7 years of seeing nothing at all. Inside the cabin the fire had burned down to embers. Sam laid the woman on the rug near the hearth, then turned and began building up the flames with desperate efficiency. Kindling first, then split logs, then more kindling to catch the stubborn wood. The fire fought him at first, sputtering and smoking, but finally it caught and grew and threw heat and golden light across their pale faces. "Bring Lucy here," Sam said without turning around. Close to the fire, but not too close. Emma obeyed. She settled onto the rug with her sister, positioning Lucy so the warmth could reach her without the danger of sparks. It was a small thing, that careful placement, but it told Sam everything he needed to know about this child. She had been caring for her family for a long time. She knew how to keep them safe. She is real sick. Emma's whisper was barely audible. She has been coughing for days. Mama tried to keep her warm, but it was not enough. How long have you been out there? In the cold, Emma's eyes went distant, calculating. Maybe 2 days. Maybe 3. I lost count. 2 or 3 days. In weather that killed cattle overnight. That turned strong men into frozen statues if they strayed too far from shelter. These 3 fragile souls had survived it through nothing but each other. You are a brave girl, Emma. Sam grabbed blankets from his bed and wrapped them around the children. Real brave. Emma did not answer. She just held Lucy tighter and watched him with those sharp, suspicious eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Sam turned his attention to the mother. Her breathing had steadied some, but she was still too cold, still too still. He worked through the long night, warming water, carefully applying it to their hands and feet with slow, deliberate movements. Too much heat too fast could be as dangerous as the cold itself, shocking systems that had learned to survive in suspended animation. Lucy woke first, crying weakly. Emma tried to soothe her, humming a tuneless melody and rocking her gently, but the toddler wanted something her sister could not provide. "She is hungry." Emma's voice was small, embarrassed. "We have not eaten since... I do not remember." Sam's chest tightened with something he had not felt in years. Anger, maybe. Or grief. Or both. He went to the kitchen and heated milk, brought it back in a cup that had once belonged to Catherine. The cup was chipped now, the painted flowers faded, but it still held liquid, and that was all that mattered. Can she drink from a cup? She is almost 3. Emma's chin lifted again, that stubborn pride surfacing despite everything. She is not a baby. Sam handed over the cup and watched as Emma guided it to Lucy's lips. The toddler drank greedily, her small hands wrapping around the warm ceramic, her eyes closing in something like bliss. When it was empty, she looked up at Sam with wide, unfocused eyes. "More," she whispered. "More, please." "All you want, little one." He brought more milk. Bread softened in warm water. Emma ate too, though she tried to hide her hunger, tried to make it seem like she was only picking at the food to be polite. But her hands shook as she chewed, and she could not quite suppress the small sounds of satisfaction that escaped her throat. "When is the last time you ate?" Sam asked. Emma would not meet his eyes. "Mama gave us her food, said she was not hungry." Of course she had. That was what mothers did. They starved so their children could eat. They froze so their children could stay warm. They gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left but love and will and the desperate hope that it would be enough. Near dawn, the mother stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, dark and confused. Then terror flooded her face and she tried to sit up, her body tensing for flight even as her muscles refused to cooperate. "My girls." Her voice was raw, cracked barely more than a whisper. "Where are my girls, Mama?" Emma scrambled to her side. "Mama, we are here. We are safe." "Emma." The woman's hand found her daughter's face, touched it like she could not quite believe it was real. Her fingers traced Emma's cheek, her hair the small, worried furrow between her brows. "Maggie, where is—" "She is right here, Mama." Emma pulled Lucy closer. "The man found us. He brought us inside." The woman's gaze snapped to Sam with an intensity that made him take a step back. Her body went rigid, every muscle coiled for defense or attack. "Who are you?" Her voice was stronger now, edged with steel. "What do you want?" "My name is Samuel Thornton, ma'am. This is my ranch. I found you in my barn near frozen to death, just trying to get you warm. I do not—" She looked around, taking in the cabin with its rough-hewn walls and simple furniture, the fire crackling in the hearth, the blankets wrapped around her children. "I do not understand. You do not need to understand right now. You just need to rest." "I cannot rest." The woman tried to stand and immediately collapsed back onto the rug, her body betraying her even as her will drove her forward. "I have to go. We have to keep moving. Please, if someone is following us, if he finds us here—" "Who is following you?" The woman pressed her lips together. Her eyes, dark and haunted, gave nothing away. Sam could see the walls going up the defenses, locking into place. She had survived this long by trusting no one, and she was not about to start now. "Ain't nobody going to hurt you here," Sam said quietly. "I give you my word on that." "Your word?" The woman laughed, but there was no humor in it, only bitterness and exhaustion, and the brittle edge of someone who had been disappointed too many times. A man's word is not worth the breath it takes to speak it. The words hit Sam like a physical blow. He thought of Catherine, of all the promises he had made her about the life they would build together, about the children they would raise, about growing old side by side on this ranch they had carved out of nothing. He had meant every word, and none of it had mattered. Emma tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mama, he gave us food. He wrapped us in blankets. He is not like the others." The woman looked at her daughter, then back at Sam. Something shifted in her face. Not trust, not yet, but maybe the first crack in the wall she had built around herself. "My name is Margaret." Her voice was careful, measured. "Margaret Dawson. These are my daughters Emma and Lucy. Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Dawson. Though I wish the circumstances were better, it is just Margaret. My husband is dead. I am sorry for your loss." Margaret's jaw tightened and her eyes went hard. "Do not be. He was not worth mourning." Sam filed that away, said nothing. Lucy began to cough, deep rattling coughs that shook her small body and sent Emma into a panic of back-rubbing and whispered reassurances. Margaret pulled the toddler close, murmuring soft words that seemed to do nothing against the violence of the coughing fit. "She needs a doctor," Sam said. "There is no doctor." Margaret's voice was flat, defeated. "There is no help. There is just us. There is a doctor in town. Cold Creek, about 2 hours' ride from here." Margaret looked up sharply. "You would ride 2 hours in this weather? For a stranger's child?" Sam met her eyes. He thought about Grace, about holding her tiny body as the life slipped away, about begging God for a miracle that never came. He thought about the 7 years since the empty cabin, the silence that had become his only companion. "I would." Something passed between them. Margaret's expression flickered with uncertainty, with the desperate hope of someone who had forgotten what hope felt like. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do that?" "Because I could not save my own daughter," Sam thought. "Because she died in my arms while I prayed for something that never came. Because every day since has been empty and gray and meaningless, and maybe this is my chance to do something right." But he did not say any of that. Instead, he said simply, "Because it needs doing." Margaret stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once, a single sharp movement that cost her more than she wanted to show. "If you can get a doctor, I would be grateful. Stay by the fire. Keep her warm. I will be back as soon as I can." Sam pulled on his spare coat and grabbed his hat. At the door he paused. "Emma." The girl looked up from her vigil at Lucy's side. "You take care of your mama and sister while I am gone. Can you do that?" Emma's chin lifted. "I always do." Something in Sam's chest cracked open just a little. This child, 5 years old, carrying a weight no child should carry. He had seen that look before in the mirror after his own father died and left him to run the ranch at 16. "I know you do," he said quietly. "But now you have help. You are not alone anymore." He stepped out into the frozen dark before he could see the effect of his words. The wind hit him like a fist, but Sam did not hesitate. He saddled Bella in the dark barn, his fingers numb and clumsy, then mounted up and pointed her toward Cold Creek. Behind him the cabin glowed warm against the endless white. 3 lives inside. 3 strangers who had stumbled into his world on the last night of the year. 3 people who might just save him from drowning in his own silence. The ride to Cold Creek was brutal. The wind cut through Sam's clothes like they were made of paper, numbing his face and hands until he could barely feel the reins. Bella fought him at every step, her natural instincts screaming to find shelter rather than push forward into the teeth of the storm. But Sam pushed on. Mile after frozen mile he pushed on, thinking of Lucy's rattling breath, of Emma's 2 old eyes, of Margaret's desperate hope that she tried so hard to hide. 2 hours felt like 2 days. But finally, the lights of Cold Creek appeared through the swirling snow-yellow squares of warmth in an ocean of white. Doc Harrison's house sat at the edge of Main Street, distinguished by the small wooden sign that swung and creaked in the wind. Sam dismounted and pounded on the door until it swung open, revealing a grizzled man in his 60s with spectacles perched on his nose and a nightshirt hastily tucked into his trousers. What in God's name? Doc Harrison squinted through the snow. "Samuel Thornton. I have not seen you in 6 months. What is wrong? Got a sick child at my place." Sam's words came out in staccato bursts, his lungs burning from the cold air. "Toddler, maybe 3 years old. Coughing, bad fever coming on. Her mama and sister are there too. Found them in my barn tonight near frozen through." Doc Harrison was already reaching for his coat. "A woman and 2 children out in this weather. How did they end up in your barn? Do not know the full story yet, but the little one needs help now. Let me get my bag." 5 minutes later they were riding back through the storm. Doc Harrison, for all his 60 years, kept pace without complaint. He had been a field surgeon in the war, had seen worse conditions and harder rides. A little snow was not going to stop him. They reached the cabin as the first gray light of dawn touched the horizon. New Year's Day, 1888. A new year, a new beginning, or so the saying went. Sam pushed through the door, stamping snow from his boots. "Margaret, I brought the doctor." Margaret stood by the fire with Lucy in her arms. Emma sat nearby, watching with those sharp eyes that seemed to catalog every movement, every sound, every potential threat. When she saw Doc Harrison, her face went wary. "It is all right, Emma." Sam kept his voice calm. "He is here to help." "That is what they always say," Emma muttered, but she did not run, did not try to put herself between the doctor and her family. Progress, Sam thought. Small and fragile, but progress nonetheless. Doc Harrison approached slowly, keeping his hands visible, his movements deliberate. "Well, now, young lady, you are absolutely right to be cautious. Tell you what, you can stay right there and watch everything I do. Make sure I do not do anything I should not. Deal." Emma considered this offer with the gravity of a judge weighing evidence. Then she nodded. "Deal." The doctor turned to Margaret. "Ma'am, may I examine your daughter?" Margaret hesitated, her arms tightening around Lucy instinctively. Then she nodded and laid the toddler on the rug, keeping one hand on Lucy's chest as if to reassure herself that the small heart was still beating. Lucy whimpered and reached for her mother. "Shh, baby." Margaret's voice was soft, soothing. "The doctor is just going to look at you. Mama is right here." Doc Harrison worked quickly but gently, his hands moving with the efficiency of long practice. He listened to Lucy's chest with his stethoscope, checked her temperature by pressing his lips to her forehead, examined her throat with a wooden depressor. His face grew serious. "How long has she been coughing like this?" 4 days, Margaret said. "Maybe 5. It started just before we left the trading post. And you have been traveling in this weather the whole time. We did not have a choice." Doc Harrison exchanged a look with Sam. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out several bottles and packets. "It is influenza. Bad case complicated by the cold exposure, but we caught it in time." He handed Margaret a small brown bottle. "This is for the fever, 1 spoonful every 4 hours. And this," he held up a packet of dried herbs you brew into tea. "Helps with the cough." "Will she—" Margaret's voice broke on the words. "Will she be all right?" "If she stays warm, gets rest and takes the medicine. Yes, she is a fighter, this one." Doc Harrison smiled at Lucy, who had fallen asleep during the examination, exhausted by the ordeal. "But she cannot travel. Not for at least 2 weeks. Maybe longer. 2 weeks." Sam watched Margaret's face crumple as the reality of their situation hit her. 2 weeks stuck in a stranger's cabin with no money, no resources, nothing but the charity of a man she did not know or trust. 2 weeks of vulnerability, of dependence, of hoping that this stranger's kindness was not a trap. "She can stay here." Sam spoke before Margaret could voice the objections already forming on her lips. "All 3 of you, long as you need. We cannot impose on you like that. It is not an imposition. You do not know us. You do not owe us anything. I know you are a mother who nearly killed herself keeping her children alive. I know your daughter is sick and needs rest. That is enough." Doc Harrison smiled slightly. "He is a stubborn one, this Samuel Thornton. Once he makes up his mind, there is no changing it. Trust me, I have tried." Margaret looked from the doctor to Sam. Her eyes were wet, but she blinked the tears back with fierce determination. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you doing this?" "Because it is New Year's Day," Sam thought. "Because 7 years ago I could not save them. Because maybe, just maybe, this is my chance to do something right." But he did not say any of that. He just shrugged. "It is the right thing to do." Doc Harrison stayed through the morning, monitoring Lucy, making sure the fever was coming under control. When he finally prepared to leave, he pulled Sam aside, away from the others. "That woman has been through something." His voice was low, meant only for Sam's ears. "I have seen the look in her eyes. The older girl, too. Somebody hurt them, Sam. Maybe not recently, but they are carrying scars. I figured as much. You sure you know what you are getting into?" Sam looked across the cabin at Margaret, who was singing softly to Lucy, her voice cracked but tender. At Emma, who sat close by, still observing him with that careful wariness she had learned too young that seemed to be waiting for him to prove himself a monster like all the other men she had known. "No," he admitted, "but that does not change anything." Doc Harrison clapped him on the shoulder. "Catherine would be proud of you. She always said you had too much heart to waste it on being alone." Sam's throat tightened at the mention of his wife. Even after 7 years, her name still hit like a punch to the gut. "I will check back in a few days." The doctor continued, reaching for his coat. "Keep that little one warm and rested. And Sam." "Yeah, Happy New Year." Sam almost laughed. "Same to you, Doc." After Doc Harrison left, silence settled over the cabin. Lucy slept, her breathing easier now with the medicine working through her system. Margaret sat beside her, exhausted but unwilling to rest, her hand resting on Lucy's chest to feel each rise and fall. Emma approached Sam carefully, like he was a wild animal that might startle and attack if she moved too fast. You can call me Sam." Mr. Sam. She considered this compromise and seemed to accept it. "Are we really going to stay here? If your mama agrees, yes. For how long?" "Long as you need." Emma's brow furrowed, her small face creasing with thoughts too complex for a child her age. "What if we need to stay forever?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Sam felt something shift in his chest, like a door creaking open after years of being locked. "Then I reckon we will figure that out when we get there." Emma studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face for the lie, the trap, the hidden cruelty that experience had taught her to expect. She found nothing but quiet sincerity. "You are not like other men," she said finally. "Other men hurt. You do not seem like you would hurt." Sam knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. "I am not going to lie to you, Emma. This world has plenty of men who hurt, but I am not one of them. And while you are under my roof, nobody is going to lay a hand on you or your mama or your sister. You have my word on that, your word." Emma repeated the phrase, testing its weight, wondering if it would hold or crumble like all the other promises she had been given. "My word." Something in her face softened. Not trust. Not yet. But the first crack in the armor she had built around her small, battered heart. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay, Mr. Sam." Margaret had been watching the exchange. When Sam looked up, her eyes were wet again, but this time she did not blink the tears away. They ran down her cheeks unchecked, leaving tracks in the grime and exhaustion. "Thank you," she whispered, "for talking to her like a person. Most folks treat her like she is invisible. She is not invisible. She is brave. Maybe the bravest person I have ever met." Margaret pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting back the sob that wanted to escape. Sam looked away, gave her the privacy to feel whatever she needed to feel. He understood. Sometimes kindness was harder to bear than cruelty. Sometimes being seen, being valued, being treated with dignity was more devastating than the worst abuse because it reminded you of everything you had been denied. Outside, the sun rose higher, painting the snow gold and pink. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world that sparkled like it was covered in diamonds. The new year had begun, and in a cabin on the edge of nowhere, 4 wounded souls had been thrown together by chance, by fate, by the simple accident of a barn door left ajar. Sam did not know what came next, did not know if Margaret would stay or flee as soon as Lucy was well enough to travel, did not know if he could open his heart again after keeping it locked away for so long. But as he watched Emma curl up beside her mother, as he heard Lucy's soft breathing in the warmth of the fire, he felt something he had not felt in 7 years. Hope. Fragile. Terrifying. But there. He added another log to the fire, settled into his chair, and kept watch through the long morning. Outside, the world was cold and white and empty. Inside, warmth held. And for the first time since he had buried his wife and daughter beneath the cottonwood tree, Samuel Thornton did not feel completely alone. 3 days passed. Lucy's fever broke on the 2nd morning, and by the 3rd she was sitting up demanding food with the stubborn insistence of a child who had been denied too long. Margaret wept with relief, though she tried to hide it, turning her face away and wiping her eyes when she thought no one was looking. Emma just held her sister's hand and whispered, "I told you she would be okay. I told you." Sam kept his distance. He cooked meals, tended the fire, checked on the stock in the barn. He gave Margaret and her daughters space to heal, to breathe, to exist without the threat of a man hovering over them. He had seen the way Margaret flinched when he moved too fast, the way Emma positioned herself between him and her mother whenever he entered the room. They had been hurt before. He was not going to add to that pain. On the 4th morning, Margaret appeared at the kitchen stove while Sam was making coffee. "Let me." Her voice was quiet but firm. Sam stepped back without argument. Margaret moved into the space he had vacated, her hands already reaching for the pan. "You do not have to earn your keep. You are guests. We are not guests. We are charity." Her voice held no self-pity, only the flat acceptance of fact. and I do not take charity without giving something back. It is not in my nature." Sam watched her work. Her movements were quick and competent, the movements of a woman who had spent years cooking for others. But there was tension in her shoulders, a weariness that never quite left her eyes. "Fair enough," he said. "But if you are cooking, you are eating too, properly, not giving your portion to the girls." Margaret's hand stilled on the spatula. "Emma told you. She is worried about you. Says you have been giving them your food since you left the trading post. They needed it more than I did. You nearly died in my barn, Margaret. You need food as much as they do." She was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded once. "All right." They ate together that morning, the four of them, around Sam's rough wooden table. Lucy sat in Margaret's lap, still too weak to sit alone, but strong enough to demand bites of egg and bread. Emma ate carefully, watching Sam over every mouthful. "This is good." Emma's voice was grudging, like the compliment was being dragged out of her against her will. "Better than Mama's." Emma May Dawson. Margaret's tone carried warning, but there was a hint of warmth beneath it. "What? It is true." Sam bit back a smile. "Your mama has been too tired to cook proper. Give her a few days. She will put me to shame." Emma considered this. Maybe. After breakfast, Sam went to check the horses. When he returned, Margaret was washing dishes in the basin, her back to him. She did not turn around when he entered. "There is something I need to tell you." Her voice was quiet but steady. "About why we are here. About why someone might be looking for us." Sam hung his coat by the door and waited. "My husband Thomas." Margaret's hands continued their work, scrubbing at a plate that was already clean. "He was not a good man. I thought he was when I married him. He was kind at first, gentle. But after Emma was born, something changed." Her voice took on a distant quality, like she was reciting something that had happened to someone else. "He started drinking, started failing at business after business, and when he failed, he needed someone to blame." Her hands stilled in the water. "He hit me the first time when Emma was 2. I told myself it was an accident, that he did not mean it, that if I just tried harder, if I just did better, it would stop." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That is what women tell themselves, is it not? That if we just try harder, if we just do better, it will stop." She laughed again, the sound bitter as winter wind. "It never stops. Margaret, you do not have to tell me this." "Yes, I do. You took us in. You deserve to know what you took in." She turned to face him, her eyes dry but haunted. "Thomas died 18 months ago. Horse threw him, broke his neck. I was supposed to mourn him. Instead, I felt relief." What kind of woman feels relief when her husband dies? "The kind who has been hurt too long," Sam said quietly. Margaret's breath caught. She looked at him like she had never truly seen him before. "After he died," she continued, her voice steadier, "now I found out about the debts. Thomas owed money to everyone in town, money we did not have. The creditors took everything. The house, the furniture, even my mother's china. We had nothing left. So you decided to head west. I had a sister in Oregon. Had. She wrote me last year, said there was room for us if we could get there. So I joined a wagon train in Kansas, used the last of our money for passage." Margaret's jaw tightened. "We made it to Wyoming before Lucy got sick. The wagon master said we were slowing them down, said they could not wait for a sick child. They left us at a trading post 20 miles from here, promised someone else would come through, someone who could take us the rest of the way. No one came. We waited 3 weeks. When I could not pay for our room anymore, the owner said we had to leave. So we walked, in the middle of winter, with a sick baby. I did not have a choice, Sam. I did not have anywhere else to go." Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed to the stove, poured 2 cups of coffee, and handed one to Margaret. "You said someone might be looking for you." Margaret wrapped her hands around the cup, letting the warmth seep into her fingers. "Thomas had a brother, Henry. He is convinced that Thomas hid money somewhere before he died, money that rightfully belongs to him, so he says. He came to the house after the funeral, tore through everything looking for it. When he did not find anything, he—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "He hurt you," Sam said. "He hurt Emma." He grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises. Margaret's voice went cold. Said if I did not tell him where the money was, he would do worse. Her eyes met Sam's. "There is no money. Thomas drank and gambled every penny we ever had, but Henry does not believe that. He thinks I am hiding it. Is he the one following you? I do not know. I thought I saw him in Laramie before we joined the wagon train, but I cannot be sure. Maybe I am just jumping at shadows." She set down the cup, her hands shaking. "I am sorry. I should not have brought this trouble to your door. As soon as Lucy is strong enough, we will leave." Go where Margaret did not answer because there was no answer. She had no money, no wagon, no provisions. The mountain passes were snowed shut until spring. She had nowhere to go and no way to get there. "You will stay here," Sam said, "through winter at least, until the pass is open. I cannot ask that of you. You are not asking. I am offering." Sam met her eyes. "No strings, Margaret. No expectations. Just a warm place to rest until you figure out what comes next." Margaret stared at him for a long moment. Her eyes searched his face, looking for the trap, the hidden motive. She had spent years learning to read men's faces to anticipate the blow before it came. She found nothing but quiet sincerity. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you doing this?" Sam looked away toward the window where snow was falling again. "Because somebody should have done it for you a long time ago. And nobody did." Margaret pressed her hand to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and this time she did not try to hide them. "Thank you," she managed. "Thank you, Sam." He just nodded, uncomfortable with gratitude. "Drink your coffee before it gets cold." The days took on a rhythm after that. Margaret insisted on cooking and cleaning, working with a fierce determination that Sam recognized. She needed to contribute, needed to feel useful, needed to prove that she was not just a burden on his kindness. So he let her. Emma remained cautious, studying his every move like a small hawk tracking prey. She watched when he fed the horses, when he chopped wood, when he sat by the fire in the evening reading one of his few books. She was studying him, he realized, testing him, waiting to see if he would prove himself a monster like the other men she had known. Sam did not try to win her over. He just did what he always did. Worked hard, spoke little, treated everyone in his house with respect. If that was not enough for Emma, nothing would be. Lucy, on the other hand, had no such reservations. By the end of the first week, she was following Sam around the cabin like a small, curious shadow. "What are you doing?" she asked, tugging at his sleeve while he repaired a broken chair. "Fixing this leg. See how it wobbles. I am making it steady again. Can I help?" Sam looked at her small hands, then at the hammer. "You can hold the nails for me, but do not put them in your mouth. I am not a baby," Lucy said with indignation that would have been comical if it were not so earnest. "Babies put things in their mouths." "I am 3. Almost 3, Emma corrected from across the room. "Close enough," Lucy shot back. Sam hid a smile. "You are right. My mistake." Lucy beamed at him with a smile that could have melted the ice on the windows. "Mr. Sam, do you have any little girls?" The question hit like a fist to the chest. Sam's hand stilled on the wood. "I did." His voice came out rough. "Once." "Where did she go, Lucy?" Margaret's voice was sharp. "That is not a polite question. It is all right." Sam forced his hands to keep working. "She went to heaven, Lucy. A long time ago." "Oh." Lucy considered this with the matter-of-fact acceptance of very young children. "Was she nice?" "She was the nicest person I ever knew." "What was her name?" "Grace." "That is pretty." Lucy patted his arm with her small hand. "I bet she was pretty too." Sam's throat tightened. "She was." Margaret caught his eye across the room. Her expression was soft with understanding. She knew loss. She recognized it in others. That night, after the girls were asleep, Margaret found Sam on the porch. He was standing in the cold, staring up at the stars like he was searching for answers that the sky could not provide. "You do not have to talk about it." Her voice was soft, careful. "I know how it feels. the questions that cut too deep. Sam was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice rough with emotion he rarely allowed himself to feel. Her name was Catherine. My wife. We built this place together, her and me. Claimed the land, raised the walls, planted the garden. He paused, his eyes fixed on a point in the distance. She got pregnant the year after we finished the cabin. We were so happy. Built the nursery, sewed the clothes, picked out names. Everything was perfect. Margaret waited, not speaking. She went into labor early. Middle of winter, just like now. I rode for the doctor, but there was a storm. His voice broke on the word. By the time I got back, it was over. Catherine was gone. Grace lived for 3 hours, just long enough for me to hold her, to see her eyes open and close again. Sam. I buried them together under the cottonwood tree out back. He finally turned to look at her. His eyes were dry, but the pain in them was bottomless. That was 7 years ago. I have not let anyone in since, have not wanted to, because caring means losing, and I could not survive losing again. Margaret stepped closer. Her hand found his in the darkness. I understand, she said quietly. I do. But Sam, you did not lose them because you loved them. You lost them because life is cruel and unfair. Closing yourself off does not protect you from pain. It just means you suffer alone. Speaking from experience. Yes. Her grip tightened on his hand. I spent years being afraid to leave Thomas, afraid to stay, afraid of my own shadow. But fear does not keep you safe. It just keeps you small. They stood together in the cold, two wounded people holding on to each other in the darkness. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. The new year had begun, and in a cabin on the edge of nowhere, something else was beginning too. Something fragile, something terrifying, something that might just be hope. The next morning, Emma stood in front of the closed door at the end of the hallway. She did not touch it, did not try the handle. She just stood there, small and still, studying it like it held secrets she desperately wanted to understand. Sam found her there when he came in from checking the horses. He stopped at the end of the hall, watching her for a moment before speaking. "What is in there?" Emma did not turn around. Nothing important. The words were his own, thrown back at him. She had heard him say the same thing to her mother 2 days ago when Margaret had asked about the locked room. "Mama said you had a little girl once." Emma's voice was quiet, thoughtful. "Is this her room?" Sam's heart clenched. He could feel the weight of that closed door, the memories locked behind it. Catherine's rocking chair, Grace's cradle, the tiny clothes they had sewn together in anticipation of a life that never happened. Yes, the word came out rough. It was supposed to be her room. Emma nodded slowly, still not turning around. "My daddy had a room like that. A room where he kept all his bottles. Mama never let us go in there. She said some rooms hold too much pain to open. Your mama is a wise woman. Are you ever going to open it?" The question hung in the air. Sam looked at the door, at the brass handle he had not touched in 7 years. Behind that door was everything he had lost, everything he had been too afraid to face. "I do not know," he admitted. "Maybe someday." Emma finally turned to face him. Her eyes, so guarded, usually held something that looked almost like compassion. "When you do," she said quietly, "maybe it will not hurt so much if somebody is there with you." She walked away before he could respond, leaving Sam standing alone in the hallway. His hand tingled where she had touched it briefly as she passed. Such a small gesture, such a massive gift of trust from a child who trusted no one. He looked at the nursery door again. For the first time in 7 years, he thought about opening it. Not today, not yet. But the thought was there, and that was something. 2 weeks after they had arrived, Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway with a determined look on her face. "I want to learn to ride." Margaret looked up from the bread she was kneading. "Emma, I said when you were bigger you could learn." "I am bigger now." Emma's chin lifted in that stubborn way Sam had come to recognize. "Almost 6. And Mr. Sam has horses. Good horses. Gentle ones." She turned to Sam, her jaw set with fierce determination. "Will you teach me?" Sam felt something shift in his chest. This child who trusted no one was asking him for something, trusting him enough to teach her something important. He looked at Margaret. She met his eyes, something unreadable in her expression, but she nodded. "It is your decision," she said quietly. She has been asking since she could talk. Sam looked back at Emma. "Please, Mr. Sam, I will be real careful. I will do everything you say. I will not complain even if I fall off." "All right, but we start slow." "No complaints." Emma's face lit up. It was the first time Sam had seen her look like a child instead of a tiny, worried adult carrying the weight of the world on her small shoulders. "Thank you, Mr. Sam. Thank you." She threw her arms around his waist before she could stop herself. Then she froze, realizing what she had done. Her whole body went tense, waiting for rejection, for anger, for the punishment that experience had taught her to expect. Carefully, slowly, Sam put one hand on her shoulder. "You are welcome, Emma." She looked up at him with wide eyes. Then she smiled a real smile that reached her eyes and transformed her face. The ice around Sam's heart cracked a little more. The lesson started the next day. Sam brought out Bella, his gentlest mare, and showed Emma how to approach her. "Horses can feel when you are scared." He kept his voice calm and even. "You have to be calm, confident. Let her know you are not a threat." "I am not scared." Emma's voice trembled slightly, betraying her words. "Of course you are not. You are the bravest girl I know." Emma stood a little taller at that. She reached out and touched Bella's nose, her small hand shaking only slightly. "Good." Sam nodded with approval. "Now let us get you in the saddle." He lifted her up and settled her on Bella's back. Emma gripped the saddle horn with white-knuckled hands, her whole body rigid with tension. "Breathe," Sam said. "You are doing fine. What if I fall?" "Then you get back up. That is what riding is. Falling and getting back up." Emma looked down at him, something shifting in her eyes. "That is what life is too. Is it not?" Sam's throat tightened. How had this small girl learned so much about life's cruelties at such a tender age? "Yeah," he said quietly. "I reckon it is." Margaret watched from the porch, Lucy in her arms. When Sam glanced her way, she was smiling. Not the guarded smile she usually wore, but something softer, something that made his chest ache in ways he had forgotten were possible. He looked away quickly, focused on Emma, on the lesson, on anything but the woman who was slowly, inexorably becoming necessary to him. The days grew longer as winter began its slow retreat. Emma's riding improved steadily. She went from terrified to cautious to confident, her small body learning to move with the horse instead of against it. Sam watched her transformation with a pride he had no right to feel. "She has got a natural seat," he told Margaret one evening as they stood on the porch watching Emma practice in the paddock. "Born rider. She has never been this happy." Margaret's voice was soft. "Not since before Thomas. Not since before everything went wrong. She is a good kid. Strong. Resilient. She trusts you." Margaret turned to face him, her expression serious. "Do you understand how rare that is? After what she has been through, after what she has seen, she trusts you. That means something, Sam." He did not know what to say, so he said nothing. Margaret stepped closer. "It means something to me, too." Sam felt his heart rate increase. The space between them seemed to shrink, charged with something he had not felt in 7 years. "Margaret, I know." She held up her hand. "I know you have walls. I know you are scared. God knows I am scared too. But Sam, what we have here, this family we have built, it is real. It matters. And I do not want to lose it because we are both too afraid to admit what is happening." "What is happening?" Margaret met his eyes. "You know what is happening. You feel it same as I do." He did know. He did feel it. Every morning when he woke up and heard her humming in the kitchen. Every evening when they sat by the fire and talked about nothing and everything. Every time she laughed, every time she touched his arm, every time she looked at him like he was something worth looking at. "I cannot do this again." His voice was rough, strained. "Margaret, I cannot love someone and lose them. It nearly killed me the first time. It will kill me the second. Who says you are going to lose us? Everyone leaves, everyone dies. That is how life works. Margaret took his hands in hers. Her grip was strong, steady. Life is also living, Sam. It is taking chances. It is opening your heart even when you know it might get broken. Her eyes glistened in the fading light. I spent years being afraid. Years, letting fear control everything I did. And you know what I got for it? Nothing but regret. I am not going to live like that anymore? What are you saying? I am saying I want to stay. Not just until spring. Not just until we can travel. I want to stay here with you and build something real. If you will have us. Sam's chest constricted. Everything he wanted was standing right in front of him. A woman who understood him. Children who needed him. A chance to fill this empty cabin with laughter and life again. And he was terrified. I need time. The words came out strained. I need to think. Something flickered in Margaret's eyes. Disappointment, maybe. Or understanding. She nodded slowly. Take all the time you need. She released his hands and walked back inside, leaving Sam alone with his fear and his hope and the unbearable weight of choice. That night he could not sleep. He lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling while Margaret and the girls breathed softly in the other room. Catherine's face swam before his eyes. Grace's small body in his arms. The graves beneath the cottonwood tree. But other images came too. Emma's smile when she finally cantered alone. Lucy's laughter when he swung her in the air. Margaret's eyes warm and steady looking at him like he was worth something. Could he do it? Could he open his heart again knowing how much it would hurt if he lost them? The question followed him into troubled sleep and was still there when morning came. He rose before dawn as always and went to check the horses. The routine had become familiar over the weeks, comforting in its predictability. Feed the animals, check the fences, make sure everything was secure. He was brushing Bella down when he heard hoofbeats approaching, a rider coming fast. Sam's hand moved instinctively to the rifle he kept by the barn door. He stepped outside, squinting into the gray morning light. The rider was a man, tall, lean, with a face that might have been handsome if it were not twisted by greed and malice. He reined up in front of the barn, his eyes scanning the property with predatory interest. "Morning," Sam said, keeping his voice neutral. "Can I help you?" The man smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I am looking for someone. A woman and 2 little girls. Word at the trading post is they headed this direction about a month back." Sam's blood ran cold, but he kept his face blank, his posture relaxed. "Lot of travelers come through here. What is your business with them, family business?" The man swung down from his horse and moved closer. Sam noted the pistol at his hip, the confident way he moved, the cruelty lurking behind his eyes. "My name is Henry Dawson. The woman I am looking for is my brother's widow. She has got something that belongs to me, and I aim to get it back." Henry Dawson. Margaret's nightmare standing in Sam's barn like he had every right to be there. "Do not know anyone by that name," Sam said calmly. "That?" So Henry's eyes narrowed. "Funny thing. I have been tracking them for weeks. They disappeared somewhere around here and nobody in Cold Creek knows anything about them. But smoke has been coming from your chimney day and night. More smoke than one man needs. I like to keep warm. I am sure you do." Henry stepped closer, close enough that Sam could smell the whiskey on his breath, could see the broken blood vessels in his eyes. "Let me tell you something, friend. I have come a long way for what is mine, and I do not take kindly to folks who get in my way. That a threat. It is a fact." Henry's hand rested on the pistol at his hip. "Now, I am going to ask you one more time. You seen a woman with 2 little girls? Dark hair, mid-20s, got a look about her like she is scared of her own shadow." Sam met his eyes without flinching. "I told you. I do not know anyone by that name." For a long moment neither man moved. The tension stretched between them like a wire about to snap. Then Henry laughed. A cold, ugly sound. "All right. Have it your way. But I will be around, friend. I will be watching. And when I find out you are lying, and I will find out well." He mounted his horse and tipped his hat mockingly. "Let us just say you will regret it." He spurred his horse and rode off, disappearing into the gray morning. Sam stood frozen, his heart pounding. Then he grabbed his rifle and strode toward the cabin. Margaret was at the stove when he burst through the door. She took one look at his face and went pale. "What happened? We have got trouble." Sam crossed to the window, peering out through the frost-covered glass. "A man came by the barn. Name of Henry Dawson. Says he is looking for you." Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. The spoon she had been holding clattered to the floor. "No, no, 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 no." "How did he find us?" "Do not know, but he is suspicious. He will be back. We have to go." Margaret's voice rose with panic. "We have to leave right now before he finds us, before he—" "Margaret." Sam gripped her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "Listen to me. You cannot run, not in the middle of winter, not with the girls. You would die before you got 20 miles. But if he finds us here, if he hurts the girls, he is not going to hurt anyone. I will not let him. You do not know him, Sam." Margaret's eyes were wild with fear. "You do not know what he is capable of. He hurt Emma once. He would do worse if he got the chance. Then we make sure he does not get the chance." Sam's jaw set hard. "I spent 10 years as a Texas Ranger, Margaret. I faced down outlaws, rustlers, and killers. I am not afraid of one man with a grudge. This is not your fight." "Yes, it is." His voice was quiet but fierce. "You are under my roof, you and your girls. That makes it my fight." Margaret's breath caught. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you keep protecting us?" The answer was there on the tip of his tongue. "Because I love you. Because I cannot imagine this cabin without you. Because you and your daughters have given me a reason to live again." But he could not say it. Not yet. Not with Henry Dawson circling like a vulture. "Because it is the right thing to do," he said instead. Margaret's expression shifted. She heard what he did not say, understood what he was not ready to admit. "Samuel Thornton," she said softly, "you are the most stubborn man I have ever met. So I have been told." That night, after the children were asleep, Margaret found Sam by the fire. She had taken to joining him in the evenings, the two of them sharing comfortable silence while the flames crackled low. "There is something else I need to tell you." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "About why Henry is really looking for us." Sam waited. "There is no money. I told you the truth about that. Thomas drank and gambled everything we ever had. But there is something else, something Henry wants more than money." Margaret reached into her dress and pulled out a small bundle of papers. "Documents. Proof that Henry has been stealing from half the businesses in Kansas City for years. Thomas was going to use them as leverage to make Henry leave us alone. But he died before he could." Sam looked at the papers in her hand. "You have had these the whole time sewn into the lining of my dress." Her voice dropped. "I was not sure I could trust you. I was not sure I could trust anyone. So I kept them close just in case." "In case of what?" "In case I needed to bargain. In case you turned out to be like other men." Silence stretched between them. And now Sam asked, "Now I know you are not. Now I trust you enough to tell you the truth." Sam studied her face. This woman who had survived so much, who had protected her children with nothing but her wits and her will. She had been carrying a weapon this whole time, holding it in reserve against the day when she might need it. "If we give him the papers," he said slowly, "maybe he will leave." Margaret shook her head. "Men like Henry do not leave witnesses. He would take the papers and kill us anyway. These documents are the only thing keeping us alive. He needs to know where they are before he can act." Sam felt the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. They were trapped. Running was impossible, and standing still meant waiting for Henry to make his move. "Then we wait," he said finally. "We watch. And when he comes, we will be ready." Margaret looked at him for a long moment. Then she leaned over and kissed his cheek, soft and quick. "Thank you, Sam, for everything." She stood and went to bed, leaving Sam alone by the dying fire. His cheek burned where her lips had touched. His heart pounded like he had just run a mile. He was in trouble, deep trouble. because for the first time in 7 years, Samuel Thornton was feeling something he had sworn never to feel again, and it terrified him more than Henry Dawson ever could. The kiss haunted him for days. It had been nothing, really. A brush of lips against his cheek, quick and innocent. But Sam could not stop thinking about it, could not stop feeling the ghost of Margaret's touch every time he closed his eyes. He threw himself into work trying to exhaust himself into numbness. Mended fences that did not need mending, chopped enough wood to last 3 winters, rode the property lines twice a day looking for signs of Henry or his men. It did not help. Margaret noticed, of course. She noticed everything, but she did not push, just watched him with those dark, knowing eyes and let him have his distance. 3 weeks after he had found them in the barn, Sam came in from checking the stock to find Emma standing in the kitchen with a determined expression. "I want my riding lesson." Margaret looked up from the mending in her lap. "Emma, the weather is not—" "You said when the snow stopped." "The snow stopped, and Mr. Sam has time." She turned to him, her jaw set in that stubborn way he had learned to recognize. "Please." Sam looked at Margaret. She met his eyes and nodded slightly. "Go on. She needs something normal." So they went to the barn. Sam with his rifle slung over his shoulder, Emma practically vibrating with determination to show him how much she had improved. She mounted Bella without help, this time gathered the reins with confidence. "Good," Sam said. "Now walk her around the paddock. Keep your heels down." Emma nudged Bella into a walk. Her posture was good, her hands steady. She had been practicing, he realized. Working on her form even when he was not watching. "Faster," she asked. "Can we try a trot squeeze with your legs?" "Gentle." Bella moved into a trot. Emma bounced at first, then found the rhythm posting up and down in time with the horse's movement. "You are a natural," Sam called. Emma beamed at him, her face alight with joy. For a moment she was not a scared little girl with a monster hunting her. She was just a child learning something new, feeling the pure happiness of accomplishment. Then everything went wrong. A gunshot cracked through the air. Bella reared, screaming. Emma flew from the saddle, hit the ground hard, and did not move. Sam sprinted toward her, his heart in his throat. Behind him he heard Margaret scream from the cabin. Another shot. Dirt kicked up inches from his feet. He threw himself over Emma, shielding her body with his own. His eyes searched frantically for the shooter. Henry Dawson stood at the edge of the trees, rifle raised, a cruel smile splitting his face. "Found her, did I not?" Sam's blood turned to ice. Emma lay motionless beneath him, her small body terrifyingly still. He could not tell if she was breathing, could not tell if the fall had broken her or if Henry's bullet had found its mark. "Get up slow," Henry called, walking closer. "And do not think about reaching for that rifle. I will put the next one through your skull." Sam raised his hands, moved carefully off Emma. His eyes swept over her small form. No blood. Her chest rose and fell. Just knocked unconscious from the fall. Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by cold fury. "She is just a child." His voice was low and dangerous. What kind of man shoots at a child? The kind who is tired of being lied to. Henry stopped 10 feet away, rifle trained on Sam's chest. "I asked you nice. Asked if you had seen Margaret and her brats. You looked me in the eye and lied. So you decided to shoot a 5-year-old. I was aiming at the horse. Wanted to get your attention." Henry's smile widened. "Looks like it worked." Behind them, Margaret burst from the cabin with Lucy in her arms. She froze when she saw Henry, her face draining of color. "Well, well." Henry swung the rifle toward her. "There she is. My dear sister-in-law. You have led me on quite a chase, Margaret. Henry, please." Margaret's voice shook. "The children—" "Shut up." His voice cracked like a whip. "You know what I want. You have always known. So stop playing games and tell me where Thomas hid the money. There is no money. How many times do I have to tell you Thomas drank everything we had, gambled the rest? There is nothing left." "Liar." Henry stepped closer, rage twisting his features. "Thomas told me himself, said he had a fortune stashed away for hard times, said nobody knew about it but him. Thomas was a drunk and a liar. He told you what you wanted to hear so you would leave him alone. You are lying." Henry's finger tightened on the trigger. You have been lying since the day he died. But I am done being patient. You are going to tell me where that money is, or I am going to start hurting people until you do." Sam watched him carefully, calculating distances and angles. His rifle lay on the ground too far to reach, but he still had his pistol at his hip. If he could distract Henry long enough to draw, "Start with me." Sam stepped forward, putting himself between Henry and Margaret. "You want to hurt someone? Start with me." Henry swung the rifle back toward him. "Stay where you are. I do not have any stake in this fight. No reason to lie for her. If there is money, I do not know anything about it. Then why are you protecting her? Because that is what decent men do. They protect women and children from cowards who shoot at little girls." Henry's face flushed with anger. "You calling me a coward, I am calling you what you are. A bully, a thug. The kind of man who beats on folks weaker than himself because he does not have the guts to face someone his own size." "Sam, do not." Margaret's voice was desperate. "You have got a lot of nerve, friend." Henry raised the rifle higher. "A lot of nerve for a man with a gun pointed at his heart. Maybe. But I have faced down worse than you. I spent 10 years as a Texas Ranger. Hunted outlaws across 3 territories. Put more men in the ground than I care to count. You think I am scared of one man with a rifle and a grudge?" Something flickered in Henry's eyes. Doubt, maybe. Or the first stirring of fear. "I do not want trouble with you," Henry said slowly. "This is not your business. You made it my business when you shot at that child, when you threatened a woman under my protection." Sam's voice dropped cold and hard. "So here is how this is going to go. You are going to lower that rifle. You are going to get on your horse, and you are going to ride out of here and never come back. Or what? Or I am going to kill you." The words hung in the air, simple and absolute. Henry stared at Sam, reading the truth in his eyes. This was not a bluff. This was a man who had killed before and would kill again if he had to. But Henry was not ready to back down. Not yet. "You are fast, I can tell. But are you faster than a bullet? Why do you not find out?" For a long, terrible moment, nobody moved. Margaret clutched Lucy, her breath coming in terrified gasps. Emma stirred on the ground, moaning softly, and Sam waited, every muscle coiled, ready to draw. Then Henry laughed. "You have got sand, I will give you that." He lowered the rifle slightly. "All right, Ranger. Maybe I was a little hasty. Maybe we can work something out." "Nothing to work out. You leave, you live. You stay, you die. See, that is where you are wrong." Henry's smile turned ugly. "Because I am not alone." He whistled sharp and loud. From the trees behind him, 2 more men emerged. Rough-looking, armed, the kind of men who would kill for money and sleep fine after. "Meet my friends. They have been helping me track Margaret across 3 states, and they do not take kindly to threats." Sam's heart sank, but he kept his face blank. 3 against 1. Bad odds. Worse if he had to protect Margaret and the girls at the same time. "Impressive," he said calmly. "Takes 3 of you to threaten 1 woman and 2 children. Real brave. Mock all you want. You are not getting out of this." Henry gestured to his men. "Grab the woman and the brats. We are taking them with us. Like hell you are." Sam moved. His hand dropped to his pistol. Drew. Fired. One smooth motion faster than thought. The first man went down with a bullet in his shoulder, screaming. The second dove for cover behind the water trough. Henry swung his rifle up, but Sam was already moving, putting himself between the guns and Margaret. "Get inside," he shouted. "Take the girls and get inside." Margaret ran. She scooped up Emma with her free arm, carrying both children toward the cabin despite their combined weight. Henry fired after her. Missed. Sam fired back, forcing him to duck. "You are dead!" Henry screamed. "You are dead! You hear me?" Sam did not answer. He was already retreating, covering Margaret's escape, putting bullets into anything that moved until the women and children were inside and he could slam the door behind them. "Bar the door," he ordered, reloading with shaking hands. "Stay away from the windows. Sam, you are bleeding." He looked down. Blood soaked his left arm, dripping onto the floor. He had not even felt the bullet. "It is nothing, just a graze. It is not nothing." Margaret was already tearing strips from her petticoat. Sit down. Let me. No time. Sam moved to the window, peered out through a crack in the shutters. Henry and his remaining man, the one he had shot was still down, were taking cover behind the barn. They are regrouping, planning their next move. What do? We wait. We watch. And when they make a move, we make ours. Emma stirred in Margaret's arms. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and scared. Mama? What happened? Shh, baby. You fell off the horse. But you are okay now. I heard gunshots. I know. Just stay still, all right. Mr. Sam is going to keep us safe. Emma's gaze found Sam. Even dazed, even terrified, she looked at him with something like faith. Promise. Sam crossed to her, knelt down despite the pain in his arm. He took her small hand in his bloody one. I promise, Emma. Whatever happens, I am not letting them hurt you. She nodded slowly, then closed her eyes again. Margaret pulled her close, rocking her gently. There has to be another way out, Margaret said desperately. A back door, a window. There is a cellar, trapdoor under the kitchen table, leads to a tunnel that comes out by the creek. Then we should go, while there is still time. No. Sam's voice was hard. I am not running. This is my land, my home. I will not let men like Henry drive me out. Sam, please, this is not worth dying for. Yes, it is. He turned to face her, and for the first time he let her see everything he felt. You are worth dying for. Emma and Lucy are worth dying for. This life we have built, this family, that is worth everything. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Sam, I love you. The words came out rough, desperate. I know I have not said it. I know I have been too scared to admit it. But I love you, Margaret. I have loved you since you woke up in my cabin and told me a man's word was not worth anything. I have loved you every day since, and I will love you until the day I die. Which might be today, she whispered. Might be. But if it is, I want you to know. I want you to know that you gave me something I thought I had lost forever. A reason to live. A reason to hope. He cupped her face in his hands. Whatever happens out there, you remember that. You remember I chose this. I chose you. Margaret kissed him, not soft and quick like before, but deep and fierce, pouring everything she felt into it. Fear and love and desperate hope all tangled together. I love you too, she said when they finally broke apart. I love you, Samuel Thornton, and I am not going to let you die for us. Not today. Margaret, listen to me. Her eyes blazed with sudden determination. There is no money. I told you that, and it is true. But those papers, the evidence against Henry, that is what he really fears. That is his true weakness. She grabbed his hand. If those papers get to the sheriff, Henry goes to prison for the rest of his life. He knows that. It is why he has been so desperate to find them. Sam understood immediately. If we can get you to town, if I can get to Cold Creek with the papers, Henry loses everything. Even if he kills you, even if he burns this place to the ground, he still loses. You would be safe. We would all be safe. Because Henry would have nothing left to gain by hurting us. Sam looked at her, this woman who had been through hell and come out fighting. Who had protected her children against impossible odds. Who had found the strength to hope again, even after everything. The cellar, he said. Take the girls. Follow the tunnel to the creek, then head south to town. Tell Sheriff Morgan everything. What about you? I will buy you time. Sam, go, Margaret, please. Let me do this. Margaret's face crumpled, but she nodded, because she knew he was right, because she understood sacrifice and love and the terrible arithmetic of survival. Come back to me, she whispered. Promise me you will come back. I will try. He kissed her forehead, gentle and brief. Emma. He turned to find the girl standing behind her mother, pale but steady. You are coming back, she said. Not a question. A statement. You promised you would keep us safe. You cannot do that if you are dead. Sam felt something crack in his chest. This child, this fierce, brave, wounded child, who had finally learned to trust again, he could not fail her. He could not become another man who made promises he did not keep. "I will come back," he said. "I swear it, Emma. I will come back." She nodded once, then let her mother guide her toward the kitchen and the trap door beneath the table. The last thing Sam saw before he stepped outside was Margaret's face white with terror, her eyes locked on his. "I love you," she mouthed. "I love you too," he mouthed back. Then he opened the door and walked into the cold. Henry saw him immediately. "Well, well, the hero emerges. Let us talk." Sam walked forward slowly, hands visible, no weapon drawn. His pistol was still at his hip, but reaching for it now would be suicide. "Just you and me, Henry, man to man. Nothing to talk about." Henry's voice was flat. "Where is Margaret gone? Took the girls and ran while you were making speeches. You are lying. Check if you want. Cabin is empty." Sam kept walking, closing the distance between them. "But they are not your concern anymore, Henry." "I am. You think you can take both of us?" Henry gestured at his remaining man who had emerged from behind the water trough with his gun drawn. "I do not have to take both of you, just have to take you." Sam's eyes never left Henry's. "Your friend there is hired muscle, paid to follow orders, not to die for nothing. Once you are gone, he will ride off and never look back." The hired man shifted uncomfortably. Henry noticed. "Do not listen to him, Jake. He is trying to get in your head. I am telling him the truth." Sam spoke directly to the man now. "You want to die for this man's grudge? For papers that will put him in prison if they ever see the light of day?" Jake's grip on his pistol wavered. "What papers?" "Shut up," Henry snarled. "There are no papers. She has been lying the whole time. Has she?" Sam smiled, cold and hard. "Then why did you chase her across 3 states? Why did you beat her daughter? Why did you burn through money, hiring thugs to track down a penniless widow?" He shook his head. "It does not make sense. Unless she has got something you need, something worth killing for." Jake looked at Henry. Doubt flickered in his eyes. "He is playing you," Henry said desperately. "There is nothing. There is proof." Sam cut him off. "Proof that you have been stealing for years. Proof that will put you away for life. Thomas was going to use it against you, but he died before he could. Margaret has had it all along. And right now, she is on her way to Cold Creek with those papers in her hand." Henry's face went white, then red, then twisted with homicidal fury. "You do not know what you are talking about." "Do I not?" Sam spread his hands. "Go ahead then. Kill me. Burn the cabin." "But Margaret is already gone. She is halfway to Cold Creek by now. And when she gets there, she is going to hand those papers to the sheriff. Every lawman in the territory will know your name by sundown." "You are bluffing." "Am I?" Silence stretched between them. Henry's hands shook. His eyes darted between Sam and Jake, between fury and fear. "I am done," Jake said suddenly. He holstered his pistol and stepped back. "You said this was a simple job. Find a woman, get some money. You did not say anything about murder. You did not say anything about papers or prison." "Jake, I am out. Deal with this yourself." Jake was already walking toward his horse. He mounted up and rode off without looking back, leaving Henry alone. Sam faced him. One man against one man, just like he had planned. "It is over, Henry. You can ride out now, disappear before those papers reach the law, or you can try to kill me and spend the rest of your life running." Henry stared at him. His whole body trembled with rage. "You ruined everything," he whispered. "Everything. You ruined yourself. The day you decided to hurt women and children, you sealed your own fate. I will kill you." Henry's voice rose. "I will kill you, and then I will find her, and I will make her pay for what she has done." He raised his rifle and fired. Sam was already moving. He dove to the side as the bullet tore through the space where he had been standing. His hand found his pistol, Drew fired in one fluid motion. The bullet caught Henry in the shoulder, spun him around. His rifle went off wild, the shot singing past Sam's ear. Sam fired again. Henry staggered, dropped to his knees. Blood seeped between his fingers where he clutched his wounds. Sam walked forward, pistol trained on the wounded man. "Finish it," Henry gasped. "Go ahead. Finish it." Sam's finger tightened on the trigger. This man had terrorized Margaret, had hurt Emma, had threatened to burn them all alive. He deserved to die. One squeeze and it would all be over. But Margaret's voice echoed in his head. Those girls need you alive more than they need me dead. He was not a killer anymore. He was a man with something to live for. Sam lowered the gun. You are not worth the bullet. He kicked Henry's rifle away out of reach. Sheriff can deal with you. Let the law decide what you deserve. You are a fool, Henry spat. Should have killed me when you had the chance. Maybe. But I am done letting hate and fear make my choices. Sam stepped back, kept the gun ready but not aimed. I spent 7 years living like a dead man, grieving, hiding, afraid to let anyone in because I could not stand the thought of losing again. He looked toward the horizon where Margaret and the girls had fled. Then they came. A woman and 2 children half frozen in my barn, and they reminded me what it feels like to hope, to love, to want something more than just survival. He turned back to Henry. So no, I am not going to kill you, because I want to be the kind of man they deserve. The kind of man who chooses life over death, every time. Henry spat blood at his feet. Sentimental fool. Maybe. Sam heard hoofbeats in the distance, multiple riders coming fast, but this sentimental fool is the one still standing. The riders crested the hill. Sheriff Morgan and 4 deputies drawn by the sound of gunshots. Margaret must have made it to town, must have raised the alarm. Over here, Sheriff, Sam called out. Got a wounded man. He needs a doctor in a jail cell. In that order. The sheriff dismounted and surveyed the scene with narrowed eyes. What happened here? Long story. Short version, this man tried to kidnap a woman and her children, threatened to burn my cabin, shot at a 5-year-old girl. Morgan's face hardened. That true Henry said nothing, just glared at Sam with pure hatred. I have got witnesses, Sam continued. The woman is on her way to town right now, and she has got papers that prove this man has been stealing for years. The sheriff nodded slowly. All right, we will sort it out. He gestured to his deputies. Get him patched up and put him in a cell. Watch him close. They hauled Henry to his feet and dragged him toward the horses. He twisted around, screaming at Sam. This is not over. You hear me? This is not over. Yeah, it is. Sam holstered his pistol. It has been over since the day you decided to pick on people who could not fight back. You just did not know it yet. He watched them ride away, taking Henry with them. 6 months later, word came that Henry Dawson had been convicted on 12 counts of theft and fraud. He would spend the next 20 years in the territorial prison. Margaret burned the papers that night, watching the evidence turn to ash. She did not need them anymore. She had something better now. She had a home. Then he turned and looked at his cabin still standing, the graves under the cottonwood tree undisturbed, the barn where he had found Margaret and the girls just a month ago. His arm throbbed where the bullet had grazed him. His hands shook with fading adrenaline. But he was alive. They were all alive. And somewhere in Cold Creek, Margaret was waiting for him. Sam mounted. Bella ignored the pain shooting through his arm and rode toward town, toward the woman he loved, toward the family he thought he would never have again, toward home. The sun was setting when Sam reached Cold Creek. Orange and pink painted the sky, turning the snow to fire and gold. His arm throbbed with each beat of his heart, the makeshift bandage soaked through with blood, but he barely noticed. All he could think about was finding Margaret, finding his family. He found them at Doc Harrison's office. Margaret sat on a worn wooden bench with Emma and Lucy pressed against her sides, all 3 of them huddled together like survivors of a shipwreck. Margaret's face was streaked with tears, her hair wild from running, her dress torn and muddy from the escape through the tunnel. She had never looked more beautiful. She looked up when he walked through the door. For a moment she just stared at him like she could not quite believe he was real, like she had been preparing herself to never see him again. "You came back," she whispered. "I promised, did I not?" Margaret flew into his arms, sobbing against his chest. Sam held her tight, breathed in the scent of her hair, felt her heart pounding against his own. She was trembling, shaking with relief and exhaustion and the release of terror she had been holding back. "I thought I had lost you." Her voice was muffled against his shirt. When I heard the gunshots when we were running through that tunnel, I thought, shh. He stroked her hair. I am here. I am right here. Mr. Sam. Emma threw herself at his legs, wrapping her small arms around his thighs with fierce strength. Lucy toddled after, demanding to be picked up with outstretched arms and an insistent whine. Sam scooped Lucy up with his good arm, held her against his hip, while Emma clung to him from below. You came back, Emma said. Her voice was thick with wonder, with something that sounded almost like awe. You really came back. Told you I would. Nobody ever comes back. Emma's eyes filled with tears. They always leave. They always break their promises. Sam knelt down, ignoring the pain that shot through his wounded arm, and pulled Emma into a one-armed hug. I am not going to leave you. Not ever. You are my family now, Emma. You and Lucy and your mama, and I do not abandon family. Emma buried her face in his shoulder and cried. Not scared tears or desperate tears, but the kind of tears that come when something inside you finally breaks open and lets the light in. The kind of tears that mean healing has begun. Margaret knelt beside them, gathered them all into her arms. 4 people wounded and scared and full of hope, holding on to each other like they would never let go. Let us go home, Margaret whispered. Sam looked at her. This woman who had stumbled into his life and changed everything, who had taught him that love was stronger than fear, that family was worth any risk, that opening your heart was not weakness, but the greatest courage of all. Yeah, he said. Let us go home. The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Margaret sat in front of Sam on Bella's back, Emma behind them on the saddle, Lucy sleeping in her mother's arms. 4 people on one horse moving slow through the fading light. Sam's arm throbbed where Doc Harrison had stitched it up. The wound was not serious, just a graze like he had said, but it would leave a scar, a reminder of how close they had all come to losing everything. You are thinking too loud, Margaret murmured against his chest. Sorry. Do not be sorry. Just tell me what is on your mind. Sam was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. I almost lost you today, all 3 of you. And the whole time I was facing down Henry, all I could think about was how much time I had wasted being afraid. Margaret tilted her head back to look at him. You were not afraid today. I was terrified. But I was more terrified of losing you than I was of dying. He tightened his arm around her. That is when I knew. Knew what? That I am done hiding. Done running from feelings because they might hurt someday. I spent 7 years protecting myself from pain, and all I got was a different kind of pain. Loneliness. Emptiness. That is not living, Margaret. That is just existing. Margaret's hand found his and laced their fingers together. So what are you saying? I am saying I want to live, really live, with you and the girls, whatever that looks like, whatever it takes. I want to build something real, even if it might break your heart someday. Even then. Sam pressed his lips to her hair. Some things are worth the risk. They reached the cabin as the last light faded from the sky. Everything looked the same, untouched by the violence that had erupted just hours before. The barn stood solid and strong. The cottonwood tree spread its bare branches against the stars. Home waiting for them. Sam helped Margaret down, then Emma. The little girl stood in the snow looking around with wondering eyes. We are back, she said softly. We are really back. We are home, Margaret corrected gently. This is home now. Emma looked up at Sam. For real. We can stay. For real. Sam crouched down to her level. This is your home, Emma. Yours and Lucy's and your mama's. For as long as you want it. What about forever? Emma's voice was small but fierce. Can we stay forever? Sam's throat tightened. He looked at Margaret, saw the tears glistening in her eyes. Yeah, he said roughly. Forever sounds about right. Emma threw her arms around his neck. Sam held her close, this child who had taught him how to hope again, and felt the last of his walls crumble to dust. They went inside. Sam built up the fire while Margaret settled Lucy in the nursery. The room he had kept locked for 7 years was now open and waiting, transformed from a shrine to grief into a sanctuary for new life. Emma helped carrying blankets and pillows with the serious dedication of a child who finally had a purpose. When the girls were asleep, Margaret found Sam standing by the window looking out at the darkness. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Catherine and Grace." He did not turn around. "I have been thinking about them a lot lately." Margaret moved to stand beside him. "Tell me about them." Catherine was... He paused, searching for words that could capture what she had meant to him. She was sunshine. Everything I was not. She could walk into a room and light it up just by being there. She made me laugh, made me believe in things I had given up on. He paused again. Grace, I only knew her for 3 hours, but in those 3 hours I loved her more than I thought it was possible to love anything. I wish I could have met them. They would have liked you. Sam finally turned to face her. Catherine always said I had too much heart to waste on being alone. She would have wanted this. Would have wanted me to find someone to share that heart with. Margaret reached up and touched his face. You found us. No, you found me. Stumbled into my barn half dead on New Year's Eve and turned my whole world upside down. Are you complaining? Never. He pulled her close and wrapped his arms around her. I have got a question for you, Margaret, and I need you to answer honest. Anything. When spring comes, when the pass is open and you could travel again, what do you want to do? Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I want to stay. But only if you want us to stay. Not out of obligation or charity or any of that. I want to stay because you want us here. Because this is where we belong. It is where you belong. Sam pulled back and looked into her eyes. You and Emma and Lucy. This is your home. I want to make it official. What do you mean? Sam took a breath. This was it. The moment he had been building toward since the night he found them in the barn. Margaret Dawson. I do not have much to offer. A cabin in the middle of nowhere, a few head of cattle, and a heart that has been broken and mended so many times it probably does not work right anymore. He took her hands in his. But everything I have got, everything I am, I want to share with you. So I am asking, will you marry me? Margaret's breath caught. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Sam, I know it is fast. I know we have not known each other long. But I also know that some things do not need time to be true. I love you. I love your girls. I want to be their father legally before God and the law. I want to spend whatever years I have got left building a life with you. Yes. Margaret's voice broke on the word. Yes, Sam. Yes to all of it. She kissed him then, fierce and tender all at once. Sam held her tight and poured everything he felt into that kiss. All the love and fear and desperate hope that had been building since the moment he first saw her lying in his hayloft. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. I need to tell the girls, Margaret said, wiping her eyes. They should hear it from us. In the morning, let them sleep. They have been through enough today. Margaret nodded. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. I never thought I would feel this way again, she said softly. After Thomas. After everything, I thought that part of me was dead. Closed off forever. Me too. But you woke it up. You showed me that not all men are monsters. That some of them are good and kind and worth trusting. She looked up at him. You saved us, Sam. Not just from the cold. Not just from Henry. You saved us from giving up on everything. You saved me right back. Sam kissed her forehead. Now come on. It has been a long day. We both need rest. They slept that night, curled together on the narrow bed, Margaret's head on his chest, his arms wrapped around her. For the first time in 7 years, Sam slept without nightmares. Morning came bright and cold. Sam woke to the sound of giggling from the kitchen. He dressed quickly and followed the sound. Emma and Lucy sat at the table while Margaret made breakfast. Lucy was drawing something on a piece of paper, her small face scrunched with concentration. Emma was watching her mother with a strange, knowing expression. Mr. Sam Lucy scrambled down from her chair and ran to him. I drawed a picture. She thrust the paper at him. It showed 4 stick figures standing in front of a house. 2 big ones and 2 small ones. A family. "That is beautiful, Lucy." Sam's voice was thick. "Is that us?" "That is Mama, and that is me, and that is Emma, and that is you." Lucy pointed at each figure with a sticky finger. "Sam is not our daddy," Emma said quietly. "You cannot put him in a family picture." "Why not?" Lucy's lower lip trembled. "He lives here. He is part of our family." Emma opened her mouth to argue, but Sam held up his hand. "Actually, Emma, there is something your mama and I need to tell you." He sat down at the table and pulled Lucy into his lap. Margaret came to stand beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "I asked your mama to marry me last night," Sam said, "and she said yes." Emma's eyes went wide. "You are going to be our daddy if you will have me." For a long moment, Emma did not move or speak. Sam's heart pounded. What if she said no? What if too much damage had been done for her to accept another man into her life? Then Emma launched herself at him, nearly knocking Lucy off his lap. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held on like she would never let go. "Yes," she whispered fiercely. "Yes, I will have you. I will have you forever." Sam held both girls close, tears streaming down his face. Margaret knelt beside them and gathered them all into her arms. 4 people broken and mended, becoming one family. "When is the wedding?" Emma asked, pulling back. "Do I get to wear a pretty dress? Can Lucy be in it too?" "Of course you can." Margaret laughed through her tears. "You will both be there, standing right beside us." When Emma demanded, "When is it?" Sam looked at Margaret. "Soon as the circuit preacher comes through. Could be a week, could be a month." "I hope it is soon," Lucy said seriously. "I want Mr. Sam to be our daddy for a long, long time." "Me too, sweetheart." Sam kissed the top of her head. "Me too." The preacher came 2 weeks later. He arrived on a cold February morning, his horse steaming in the winter air. Reverend Thomas had made the journey despite the weather after Sam sent word through the general store. "Been a long time since I married someone out here," the preacher said, warming his hands by the fire. "Good to see this old cabin full of life again." "It has been empty too long," Sam agreed. The ceremony was simple. Margaret wore the blue dress she had sewn from fabric Sam bought in town. Emma wore her best dress, carefully mended and pressed. Lucy had insisted on wearing ribbons in her hair, yellow ones that matched the winter sun. Doc Harrison served as witness along with Mrs. Patterson from the general store. She had been suspicious of Margaret at first, but had warmed to her after hearing the full story of Henry and the papers and Sam's stand against violence. "You picked a good one, Mrs." Patterson told Sam before the ceremony. "That woman has got steel in her spine. She will do well out here." "I know." Sam adjusted his collar nervously. "I am the lucky one." The vows were traditional, spoken in the cabin's main room, with the fire crackling warm and the winter light streaming through the windows. Margaret's voice was steady. Sam's cracked twice. Neither of them cared. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," Reverend Thomas said, smiling. "You may kiss your bride." Sam kissed Margaret softly, tenderly, aware of their audience. Emma giggled. Lucy clapped her hands. Now for the other matter, the preacher continued pulling papers from his satchel. "I understand there is an adoption to finalize." "Yes, sir." Sam took Margaret's hand. "I want to legally adopt Emma and Lucy as my daughters." Reverend Thomas looked at the girls. "Do you understand what this means? Samuel Thornton will become your father in the eyes of the law. He will have all the rights and responsibilities that entails." Emma nodded solemnly. "We understand. And you consent to this?" "Yes, sir. We want Mr. Sam to be our daddy." She paused and then corrected herself. "I mean just Sam. Our Sam." "Our Sam," Lucy repeated, beaming. The papers were signed. The Reverend declared it official. And just like that, Samuel Thornton went from being a man alone to being a husband and father. After the preacher and witnesses left, the new family sat together by the fire. Lucy had fallen asleep in Sam's lap. Emma leaned against Margaret, fighting to keep her eyes open. "We should put them to bed," Margaret said softly. "In a minute." Sam looked down at Lucy's sleeping face, at Emma's drooping eyelids. I just want to remember this. All of us together. A real family. We are a real family. Margaret's hand found his. We have been since the beginning, since I found you in the barn, since you chose to save us instead of leaving us there. Sam thought about that night. The cold, the snow, the three bodies curled together in his hayloft. He had come so close to missing them. An hour later, 10 minutes later, and they would have been gone. I did not choose, he said slowly. It was not a decision I had to make. I saw you there, and helping was the only option, like breathing. That is love, Margaret said simply. That is what love does. It makes the right choice feel inevitable. Emma stirred against her mother. Mama, can I ask Sam something? Of course, sweetheart. The little girl sat up and rubbed her eyes. Sam, can I call you Pa now? Since you really are my daddy. Sam's throat closed up. He had to swallow twice before he could speak. Yeah, Emma, you can call me Pa. Pa. Emma tested the word and smiled. I like that. Me too, Lucy mumbled, not quite awake. Pa. Margaret was crying again. Sam was pretty sure he was too. He did not care. Come on, he said, his voice rough. Let us get you girls to bed. He carried Lucy to the nursery, the room that had waited so long for children to fill it. Margaret followed with Emma. They tucked both girls into the small bed that had been meant for Grace and now belonged to his new daughters. Good night, Pa. Emma's eyes were already closing. Good night, sweetheart. Pa. Lucy's voice was drowsy. Will you be here in the morning? I will be here every morning. I promise. Good. She smiled and snuggled deeper into the blankets. I love you, Pa. I love you too, Lucy. Both of you. More than you will ever know. Sam stood in the doorway watching them sleep. Margaret slipped her arm through his. How does it feel? She asked. Being a father again? Sam considered the question. He thought about Grace, about the 3 hours he had had with her, about the 7 years of grief that followed. He thought about Emma and Lucy, about the weeks they had been together, about the lifetime stretching ahead of them. It feels like coming home, he said finally. Like I was lost for a long time and now I am found. Margaret leaned her head against his shoulder. Welcome home, Sam. Welcome home, Margaret. They stood there together watching their daughters breathe until the fire burned low and the night wrapped around them like a blessing. Spring came slowly that year. The snow retreated inch by inch, revealing brown earth and the first tentative shoots of green. The creek thawed. Birds returned. Life stirred after the long winter sleep. Sam taught Emma to ride properly, not just walking or trotting but cantering, and even a few short gallops across the open meadow. She took to it like she had been born in the saddle, her small body moving in perfect rhythm with the horse. She is a natural, Doc Harrison said during one of his visits. Might have a future as a horsewoman. She has got a future as whatever she wants to be, Sam replied. That is what matters. Lucy, not to be outdone, insisted on learning too. She was too small for the saddle yet, so Sam let her sit in front of him while he rode her small hands on the reins, pretending to steer. I am a cowgirl, she shrieked with delight. Look, Mama, I am a cowgirl. Margaret watched from the porch, laughing. Her belly was just beginning to swell with new life, another miracle neither of them had expected. You sure? Sam had asked when she told him, his voice shaking. You are certain? I am sure. Margaret had taken his hands and placed them on her stomach. The doctor confirmed it this morning. But after Grace, after everything I thought so too. But life surprises us, Sam. It breaks us and heals us and surprises us in ways we never expect. Another baby, another chance. Sam had cried that night harder than he had cried in 7 years. Letting go of grief he did not know he still carried. Making room for joy he had never expected to feel again. One evening in late April, Margaret found him standing by the cottonwood tree. Catherine and Grace's graves were decorated with fresh wildflowers, the first of the season. You still visit them, she said softly. Every week. I promised I would never forget. I would not want you to forget. Margaret came to stand beside him. They were part of your life, part of who you are. I do not need you to erase them to love me. I know. He finally looked at her. But I needed to tell them about you, about the girls, about the baby. I needed them to know I am happy again. Are you happy? Sam thought about the question. He thought about the cabin that no longer felt empty, about the sound of children laughing in rooms that had been silent for years, about Margaret's smile, Emma's determination, Lucy's joy, about the life growing in his wife's womb, a gift he had never expected. Yeah, he said, I am happy, happier than I ever thought I would be again. Margaret slipped her hand into his. Together they looked at the graves, at the names carved into the simple wooden crosses. Thank you, Margaret said quietly, for sharing him with us. For a moment Sam could have sworn he heard Catherine's voice on the wind, warm and laughing the way she had always laughed. Take care of him, the voice seemed to say. He is stubborn, but he is worth it. I will, Margaret whispered, as if she had heard it too. I promise. They walked back to the cabin hand in hand. Emma and Lucy were playing in the yard, chasing each other in circles, while the evening sun painted everything gold. Pa, Emma called when she saw them. Watch what I can do. She turned a cartwheel, landed wobbly but upright. Lucy tried to copy her and tumbled into the grass, giggling. Very impressive, Sam called back. But do not wear yourselves out. Supper is soon. 5 more minutes, Emma begged. 5 more minutes. Margaret leaned against him as they watched their daughters play. You know, she said, I used to dream about this. When Thomas was at his worst, when I could not see any way out, I would close my eyes and imagine a place where we were safe, a place where someone loved us, a place where we belonged. And this is it. Her voice was thick with emotion. This is exactly what I dreamed, right down to the sunset and the laughter and the man standing beside me. Sam pulled her close. I never dreamed this. I had given up on dreaming. But when I found you in that barn, something woke up in me. Something that had been sleeping so long, I thought it was dead. What was it? Hope. He said the word, simply letting it carry all its weight. You gave me hope, Margaret, and I do not ever intend to let it go. The sun sank lower. The girls came running breathless and happy, ready for supper. The family went inside together and the door closed against the gathering dusk. 6 months later, on a golden September morning, a son was born in the cabin on the Wyoming plain. They named him William Grace Thornton, a name that honored both the past and the promise of the future. William for Margaret's father, a kind and gentle man who had passed when she was young, the only man who had ever shown her what love should look like. Grace for the daughter Sam had lost, whose memory would live on in her brother's name. Emma held her baby brother with careful reverence. He is so small. You were that small once, Margaret said, exhausted but radiant. Was I? Emma looked skeptical. I do not remember being that small. None of us remember, Sam said, sitting on the edge of the bed. But we all start small. Then we grow. Lucy peered at the baby with intense curiosity. When can he play with us? Not for a while, sweetheart. He has to learn to walk and talk first. I can teach him. Lucy bounced with excitement. I can teach him everything, I am sure you will. Margaret smiled at her daughters. You are going to be the best big sisters in the whole world. That night, after the girls were asleep and the baby was settled in the cradle that had waited so long for purpose, Sam sat with Margaret by the fire. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For not giving up. For walking into my barn on the coldest night of the year. For believing that life could be better. He took her hand. For giving me a family. Margaret's eyes glistened. Thank you for letting us in. I know it was not easy. I know you were scared. I was terrified. Still am sometimes. But the terror does not matter as much as the love. That is what I learned. Fear fades. Love stays. Love stays. Margaret repeated the word softly. I like that. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the fire crackle and the wind whisper outside. In the nursery, the baby slept peacefully. In the room beyond, Emma and Lucy dreamed of horses and sunshine and a father who kept his promises. "You know what my mother used to say?" Margaret asked after a while. "What she said, that God writes stories with our lives, that every hardship is a chapter, every joy is a verse, and we do not get to know the ending until we get there." She looked at him. "I used to think my story was a tragedy, a woman who made bad choices and paid for them, but now I think it was something else." "What a love story." Margaret smiled. "A love story that just took a long time to find its hero." Sam's throat tightened. "I am not a hero. You are to me, to us. You saved us, Sam, not just from the cold, not just from Henry. You saved us from despair, from giving up. You showed us that good men exist, that second chances are real. That family is not about blood, but about choice." "You saved me right back," Sam said. "Every single day you saved me." He leaned over and kissed her soft and sweet. "I love you, Margaret Thornton. I love you too, Samuel Thornton. Forever." And it was true. Through all the years that followed, through hardships and joys, through children growing and seasons changing, through everything life threw at them, one thing remained constant. They loved each other. They chose each other. Every single day. Outside, the stars blazed cold and bright over the Wyoming plain. Inside, warmth held. A family slept peacefully safe, and together in a cabin that had once held only grief. The long winter was over. Spring had come and stayed and become a lifetime. Samuel Thornton had found them freezing in his barn on New Year's Eve. 3 strangers on the edge of death. He had carried them through the cold, nursed them back to life, opened his heart when he thought it was closed forever, and they had saved him right back. That was the truth of it, simple and complete. Some families are born, some are made. The best ones are built from broken pieces that somehow fit together, held by love strong enough to heal any wound. This family was made from all of those things, and they would endure. Years later, when people asked Sam about that night, about how he came to have a wife and 3 children when everyone in Cold Creek knew he had been alone for so long, he would tell them the story. He would tell them about the coldest night in Wyoming, about a barn door left ajar, about a woman and 2 little girls who should have died but did not. He would tell them about fear and love and the choice between them, but mostly he would tell them about hope, because that was what they had given him, those 3 frozen souls in his hayloft. Hope. And hope, he had learned, was the most powerful thing in the world. It could survive anything, even the coldest night in Wyoming. The end.